Spring smells amazing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How is everybody doing today? We have some crazy breaking news coming. Well, all over the world actually. We have crazy news coming out of China. With Trump being there. I mean, it seems like we have been having pretty good of a cordial relationship with China, as it seems publicly. Um, but I mean, they did kind of give us a warning about Taiwan and saying that it could cause. You know what? That's for here in just a little bit. Y'all gotta stay tuned. We have a lot to go over tonight. We actually have live call-ins tonight, y'all. We have live call-ins tonight. 540-251-7687. If y'all want to, call in, give a shout out, give a shout out to your loved ones. Share the show so we can actually start doing shout outs and everything else for y'all. If y'all have any tips for the show, let me know. But further ado, make sure y'all drop that like button, drop that follow button, or the subscribe button, and hit that little bell button so y'all get notified whenever we come on air. We are going live on Kick, Rumble, Twitch, and YouTube. We're working on some other platforms as well. So, but anyways, without further ado, as you can see, the live cams are not showing much right now that's going on. Now they do have confirmation of Iran season and striking boats in Strait of Hormuz. That's something that we're going to be going over today too, as well. We also have confirmation that things are going well in China with the meeting, or the summit, should I say? Like I said, we have live call-ins tonight, y'all. So let's get to it. Further ado, let's get to the new. Um, we are going to be going.
Stream tonight.
Right. All right. And we are going to be pulling that up on the screen for y'all now. I don't know why it does that every single time. But anyways, we are going to be pulling this up on the screen for y'all now. We have confirmation too of Kuwait actually taking prisoners from. If y'all was here last night when we talked about the Kuwait actually getting attacked by the IRGC, Iran, and failed terribly. They actually got some of their guys captured and took prisoner. We have other news coming out of Ukraine and Russia that Ukraine has launched a massive strike. I guess there's a couple of days of ceasefire actually gave them time to gather up their belongings. Let me just say that. But anyways, let's get to this real quick, and then we're going to give some more, a little bit more time for people to start falling in. We're going to start. Let's get this put over here. Let's just put back up. we're waiting for a couple more people to come in. And then we will get started. That's for sure. But don't forget, y'all, that we do have open call lines 540-251-7687. If y'all want to call in, just shoot, shoot the hay and talk about politics or news, whatever y'all really want to talk about. Even if you want to give a shout out, we're also doing that as well. But yeah, I don't really want to miss tonight, man. It's going to be. I hope it's going to be a lot better with the call-ins tonight than usual. But if not, then we're going to continue to keep on keeping on. Let me get this stuff shared over on other platforms real quick, y'all. All right. All right, y'all. So, mango, muslin. Hold on a second. Let me raise this up a little bit. Rack Mainland 9, J-Day, Oatson, 10, and Roll and Mark. I really appreciate the follows, y'all, over there on Kick. Really big support to the channel. And we also have, if y'all actually been watching for a while, we actually have live drawings here on the channel. We haven't got to one yet, but we are looking forward to actually getting to one. We have one probably about to come up, either on YouTube or on Rumble, or should I say Kick? I'm sorry. Hopefully we can get to them soon, because I am looking forward to doing it. It's going to be kind of exciting to do it down here and see how many people actually drops in for the drawings. Everybody's going to be getting a number that's on the channel that's a member. So, and then we'll just do a big wheel and draw y'all the numbers out of the wheel. How we're doing it is we'll have everybody's name in it. We're doing 5 drawings. We'll have everybody's name in it. We'll draw 5 drawings. Then we'll put them 5 drawings in the wheel, and then we'll turn them, and those 5 out of them 5 people are going to win. And that's how we're doing it. So you have a pretty good percentage chance of winning. So, I mean, especially since we're only going to have 500 members. So you have 1 out of 500 to win. I mean, that's not a bad odds. It's better than actually having 30,000 members on your channel. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, let's get to the news.
And also, they seized a major alleged military ship near Hormuz, which is being called a floating arsenal. So that's not good. We're also seeing that Moscow is currently under attack by Ukrainian drones, and the airports are currently under strong surveillance, they call it. And also, there's heavy U.S. Air Force activity near the Iranian airspace near the Persian Gulf. And we have very big news tonight, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world, as we have been able to hear of significant developments in most every corner of the globe over the course of the day, including the United States and North America at large, as well as East Asia, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe over the course of this day. Earlier in the morning, we were able to hear reports that the Islamic Republic of Iran's, not the Islamic Republic, but the Islamic Republic of Iran's IRGC forces did conduct a direct armed attack against an Indian merchant vessel, causing such serious serious damage that the vessel did sink within the area of the coast of the Gulf of Oman just earlier in the day. Additionally, we've also been able to hear that a Honduran flagged vessel has been seized, which some have alleged to have been a floating arsenal for Chinese mercenaries that were operating within the area, attempting to provide security and offer assistance to commercial vessels that are attempting to deal with piracy within the region. These allegations are quite significant about the type of vessel that was seized, and it does also appear that the IRGC has quite truly physically taken control of this particular vessel, which is giving us a general understanding or a lack of understanding as to why this vessel was seized if the allegations were correct. Meanwhile, the Iranians are now even further exerting control over the Strait of Hormuz and have now stated that even once the war ends, the Iranians will not be permitting or allowing the United States Navy to be able to ship arms and supplies to U.S. forces within the region via the Strait of Hormuz, no matter what deal is made with the United States of America. In the meantime, we've also been able to see significant U.S. Air Force activity over the entirety of the Middle East, while at the same time, the Iranians have now started the resumption of the loading of oil at Corrig Island, something that is rather unexpected considering that they have not been loading oil at Corrig Island for about the entirety of about 5 to 6 days. We've also been able to hear some other statements out of Tehran over the course of the day, and it also appears that the Iranian government is believing that the war will resume, as they are largely giving the U.S. no other option but to resume the conflict at this point. The United States blockade is still continuing at the entrance of the Gulf of Oman. In the meantime, we've also been able to hear that the Ukrainian armed forces have conducted a major drone attack against the Russian Federation over the course of the past few hours, with some of these drones actually making their way towards the Moscow air defense perimeter, leading to the closure of the Domodedovo and also the Volknovo international airports within the area of Moscow. Additionally, a major oil fire has now broken out at Ryazan after several Ukrainian drones hit the oil refining facility, leading to a major fire. The fire is, as many of y'all would know, Novorossiysk or Tuapse size, and currently the billowing smoke is creating a toxic plume over the city, and it is now raining oil over Ryazan. A lot of Russians...
It's raining oil again already in another city. That's wild. And you know, just recovering, by the way, after the other city just went through this. This is wild to happen this close together.
It really is insane. And not only that, it's even crazier, folks, because in most parts of the world, people are wondering where they're going to be getting their next drop of oil from. In Russia, you just have to look to the sky, and it's almost always raining oil at this point in Russia. Outside of that, we've also been able to hear that the natural gas processing plant near Astrakhan has taken absolutely major damage. A satellite photography made today is showing that the attack yesterday largely rendered the facility completely inoperable. At the same time, we've also been able to hear some significant developments out of a Russian submarine pin way off in Ryazan, in the area of the Kamchatka Peninsula in eastern Russia, as we're now starting to see that Russian nuclear submarines are being equipped with, and I kid you not, anti-drone nets. Why, I have no clue, but they are being equipped with them, and we have satellite confirmation of that, which we'll be showing y'all later on in the stream. In the meantime, the United States of America's president and also diplomatic delegation is still in Beijing at this moment and is talking with the Chinese. This morning, Xi Jinping has disgraced the United States of America and put dishonor on its name by claiming that the United States of America is a declining power. While the statement was made directly at the face of the President of the United States and is a direct insult and challenge to the United States in its current position in the world, the President of the United States has now tried to play it as a domestic political move and is now stating that it is not actually stating that the nation itself is in decline, only a certain political group within the United States, while his political group is fine and dandy. We've also been able to hear of other statements and developments that have been made in the People's Republic of China today, including additional statements about the situation with Taiwan, with their only statements being made officially at the moment by the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State of the United States of America, largely reiterating that the U.S.'s position on the Republic of China on the island of Taiwan is unchanged at this moment, and that they will be seeing that the United States continues its strategic and defensive relationship with the Republic of China on the island of Taiwan well on into the future. We have also been able to hear that meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces have been inflicting significant losses onto the Russians and stopping any advances, and the Russian drone attack from last night actually ended up landing in a very hard-to-reach area of the Chernobyl exclusion zone and has led to a wildfire in a radioactive forest. We've also been able to see that in the midst of this, another U.S. military unit that was supposed to be deployed to Germany as a support force for U.S. Army Europe and Africa has had its deployment canceled, now meaning that the U.S. is missing a portion of an artillery regiment in Germany that should be there otherwise. And we've also been able to hear some other significant news coming out of Venezuela and Cuba over the course of the day as well. But we are going to be making sure to get through all of this news starting with our largest stories first and then moving our way on down into the smaller stories throughout the night. And I do...
Sounds like some big news today, I would say. Some very big news. Also, by the way, folks, the whole China situation, I'm sure y'all been seeing this today. That situation has gone completely different than even we thought it was going to go to a large degree. The tensions between the U.S. and China are actually rising as a result of this meeting. And we'll get into that a little bit later on, but it's gotten very contentious. We got Secret Service fighting with the Chinese police, apparently at the meeting. We've gotten apparently nasty statements being lobbed from Xi Jinping's guys toward the U.S. officials, and also apparently U.S. officials telling China that they're not budging on Taiwan, and apparently things are going a little bit sideways, not going the way they planned it probably at all.
And it does appear that that certainly is the case, and we'll be getting on into that later, folks, because while it is going to be somewhat important for foreign policy and our long-term prerogatives in the United States, it's not exactly the most pressing news coming out today, so it'll be covered a little bit later on after the Middle East news. We'll be giving it its time then. But moving us on into all of the major news that we have over the day, it is time for us to move on and into the Middle East, and particularly towards the Strait of Hormuz, as we have seen a resurgence of IRGC violence against commercial merchant vessels within the area of the strait. Earlier today, we did get reports that the IRGC started to attack and seize a wide variety of vessels around the area at this moment within the Strait of Hormuz, and are continuing to increase their claims on the strait and how they're going to be exerting control over it into the indefinite future. We have been able to hear that earlier today, the IRGC did put out an official statement stating that they will no longer allow U.S. weapons to pass through the Strait of Hormuz to regional bases. This is a fairly important thing for the post-war situation in the region, as the United States Navy's Fifth Fleet, which is based in the Middle East, is largely supported by overseas transports by other U.S. Navy auxiliaries, which make their way into the Gulf and then drop off significant amounts of munitions, personnel, and also other support into the area for the United States Navy and also other forces that require supplies whenever necessary. This means that the Iranians are now making it clear that even in the post-war scenario, they will not be allowing the United States of America to use the Strait of Hormuz as an international waterway, something that we've already known so far, and they will be exerting unilateral control over the strait to protect and advance their interest within the region to the detriment of the United States of America and our sphere of influence in the area. Additionally, we have also been able to hear that several attacks were conducted today as well, including against one Indian vessel named the Haji Ali. It's not really a lot to look at, and to be entirely honest with y'all, it looks like one of those tourist pirate ships that you see down on like a American port city somewhere, but this vessel is actually a livestock carrier, and from what we understand, the vessel was hit so heavily by an Iranian cruise missile or a drone that the ship caught fire, and the fire eventually rendered the vessel inoperable and also weakened the hull integrity, leading to the sinking of the vessel. All 14 of the crew members on board the Haji Ali were recovered by the Omani Coast Guard. Meanwhile, we've also been able to hear of another significant incident outside of the strike and the destruction of the Haji Ali today within the coast of the area of the Gulf of Oman. We have also been able to hear of another major announcement around the area of the Iranian coastline. A vessel, this one right here, a Honduran-flagged, one has been called a research vessel, the Hui Chuan, has also been seized today by the IRGC. Now, there is a lot of questionability about what exactly the Hui Chuan is. Its name is Chinese, it's flagged out of Honduras, and the allegations that people have made about the ship and its actual purposes in the region are quite interesting as well. This ship is officially registered, mind you all, by the way, as an actual research vessel. However, there has been allegations that it is reportedly operated by a Chinese PMC security company as a floating arsenal for its forces within the area. From what we've been able to hear about these allegations, it appears that this ship is some sort of an auxiliary vessel to Chinese PMC operations that are put on board merchant ships within the area to be able to try and protect them against piracy, in particular things like the Somali pirates and whatnot, and also the Yemeni Houthis, which have been fairly present within the area. This vessel apparently provides the munitions and also the weaponry necessary, and also a temporary staging area, at least from the allegations, for this private military company to be able to operate when they're not on some someone else's ship actively being paid to fulfill a contract. If this allegation is true, the Iranian IRGC has just seized some sort of a mercenary vessel that's apparently operated by China, but I do want to make it incredibly clear, folks, that the legality of this sort of a situation is in an extreme gray area because the vessel is flagged out of Honduras. The company that owns the vessel is operated out of a whole other country that's not Honduras. The people on board are allegedly a Chinese PMC, which would be, beholden to the laws of the People's Republic of China. And so you can see that there is a pretty decent international law soup going on if those allegations are correct with that vessel. We did get some additional information as well over the course of the day about this particular ship, as it does appear that according to the BBC, the vessel that the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations said was taken to Iranian waters earlier today was allegedly a floating armory used by Chinese private military contractors in the local region to protect the vessels from piracy. The vessel in question is the Honduras-flagged Huichuan, which is the one that has the allegations leveraged against it that it is some sort of a PMC floating arsenal. We've also been able to see that UKMTO report as well, which stated in particular that this vessel had been taken under the control of the IRGC. The UKMTO has received a report of an incident 38 nautical miles northeast of Fujairah in the United Arab Emirates. The CSO has reported that the vessel has been taken by unauthorized personnel whilst at anchor and is now bound for Iranian territorial waters. The UKMTO continues to investigate, and vessels are advised to report any suspicious activity as usual to the UKMTO. Oh, the British.
Also,
go ahead.
Also notice, by the way, the location in which this apparently happened. That red box right there on the map, isn't that rather close to the U.S. blockade on the southern end of the Strait of Hormuz? It looks like it's pretty close to it. And also, is that in UAE territorial waters, or is that in the international waters part of the strait?
That would actually be within the international waters part of the strait. Particularly, this is a significant anchorage near to the entrance of the Strait of Hormuz for vessels that are awaiting passage. And while we're not seeing a lot of ships here anymore, unfortunately, there used to be a large amount of ships, usually in the dozens, that would be waiting here to make their passage through the strait. However, this is not close to the U.S. blockade line. The U.S. blockade line is at the mouth of the Gulf of Oman, way over here near the Pakistani-Iranian border, and then extends all the way down to this northwestern tip of the Omani coast within this area. We actually have that denoted on our map over here. So this is actually a pretty significant distance away from the U.S. blockade line. And while we have seen that some U.S. warships do venture fairly far in and do make it about to that area of that anchorage before they turn around, it's not an active part of the blockade line that's being enforced at the entrance of the Gulf of Oman, much farther to the east, about 100 miles away.
I wish we had videos from that vessel, but unfortunately, it sounds like the people were taken, I guess, by the Iranians, I think. What, did they get away, or were they taken by the Iranian forces that boarded the vessel?
We don't know, actually. All we know is that the vessel has been seized by unauthorized personnel, and that's it. We don't know what happened to the crew or anything else.
Well, yeah, too bad we didn't have videos, because I've seen claims by CENTCOM today that Iran's only using like a couple of their fast attack boats, which seems like complete bogus, by the way, because we've seen satellite footage showing hundreds of them going through the Strait of Hormuz. They're laying more mines, etc. But I wonder, the reason why I was asking that question is I wonder how many vessels came up to this ship to hijack it. Was it just like one or two skips? Was it like a whole fleet of them? I wonder how they took it, because, that's a very important detail.
Well, one thing that's also interesting is that they apparently would have had to sail past several vessels that are still waiting here. To give you all some ideas, like the Barbados flagged New Venture, or, for example, the Marshall Islands flagged Titan crude oil tanker, or another crude oil tanker, the Ranger, which is also flagged out of Barbados. They would have had to sail past all of those with their fast attack boats to be able to make it to this vessel and seize this one in particular, which is also quite interesting because it raises the question, what has this vessel done that apparently alerted the IRGC that that was the one to be seized out of all the other vessels that were sitting in that anchorage, to go for that one specifically and not the other ones that were far closer to the Iranian coast, which is quite interesting as well, and once again adds a little bit of intrigue to the story that's largely developing at the moment. We can only confirm that the vessel has been seized. Most of the additional details at the moment, like the allegations of it being a floating arsenal, haven't really been confirmed yet at the moment, and they're just allegations for now. And also the fact that the IRGC singled this one out of all of the ships that were sitting in that anchorage, and also the fact that it appears to have been anchored within that area, according to a report from the UKMTO, is all adding a little bit to the fire of suspicion that we have around this vessel and why this one was picked particularly. Still, it is an interesting development. In the meantime, the United States has announced, according to information that came out today, that Iran had enriched uranium up to 60% prior to last summer's Operation Midnight Hammer. And that was according to a statement today by CENTCOM Chief Admiral Brad Cooper, who spoke to the Senate Armed Services Committee, adding that there is no civilian use for such highly enriched uranium, which is absolutely true. Enriched uranium for civilian purposes only has to be enriched to about 3.6 to 3.7% to be fuel grade and used in nuclear reactors. An enrichment quality of 60% is getting well on to becoming nuclear fuel for nuclear weaponry, which is a very different sort of a category and is not allowed under the non-proliferation treaties around the world that stop multiple countries, actually everyone who isn't currently nuclear armed, from getting a nuclear weapon. So it does appear that we're once again getting confirmation from the U.S. government, at least, that much like we've known from the IAEA and many other sources, the Iranians were working well on their way to enriching uranium to a weapons grade. We've also been able to hear that a lot of people right now in the chat are talking about this alleged floating armory that was seized today by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps near to the Strait of Hormuz. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that right now, and what are you thinking about it as well?
Okay, so the vessel that was seized today, this, and by the way, just to make it clear, the Iranians sunk a vessel and then they seized the vessel. So the one they sunk was some type of cargo ship. So it apparently sunk. The crew got away. They thankfully didn't go down with the ship. But the one that was seized is being alleged by mainstream media to be a floating armory in the Strait of Hormuz. But once again, it's officially a research vessel. But people are trying to make this idea that it's some type of floating armory. It is interesting, though, that apparently Iran found it worthy to seize the vessel, which does sort of lend credibility to the idea that it could be a floating armory, and that might be why Iran targeted that vessel. But also, by the way, why do you think they've done this, and what's up with it? So 57% said Iran wanted more weapons for war, and that's probably why they went for it, if it is indeed a floating armory. 17% said Iran simply looking to pawn the stuff at the pawn shop. 15% said it sounds like a faulty report. And at this point, it's kind of hard to tell. I would tend to think that the mainstream media articles look to be accurate, so we'll have to wait for more details. This vessel is very, very strange and also hard to really get to the bottom of, so it's hard to say with certainty, but if it was loaded with weapons and it was an armory, I would say that Iran's probably looking to get weapons of war.
All right, y'all. We do have call lines open. We do have a poll going on right now over on YouTube. It said, should we let China make threats, put blockade on all trades, do nothing about the threats, or can't decide? Y'all let me know what y'all think about the polls, and at the end of the show, I'll let y'all know what the percentage are and who voted what.
Because, of course, we're about to restart hostilities with Iran. It's imminent at this point, and Iran needs...
if y'all on the other platforms as well, just put 1 for first question, 2 for the second question, 3 for the second question, and 4 for the second question. If y'all want to answer on the other platforms, just go on to YouTube. It don't matter to me. Whatever y'all want to do.
It's everything they can get to fight the United States and basically, fight off the U.S. from attacking their country. So that's probably why they went for it. Now, I'm with the 57%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to be with the 57% as well. I think that it was definitely most likely correction, everyone. I wouldn't go with the 57% looking at that now, because I was looking at that there for a second while Matthew was talking. I was like, yeah, let me get ready to say what I was going to say. That's not exactly what I would say about this in the moment. I would say that I'm unsure and undecided, at least off of the poll options at the moment, because the Islamic Republic of Iran is most likely not looking for a couple of RPGs and AKs that would be on board that ship if they were. They have absolutely no impact on how Iran's going to be fighting this war in the future once it begins once more, and so that would make no sense. Private military companies like these folks are not going to be wandering around with a little tugboat, basically, in the Strait of Hormuz that's carrying an S-400, a couple of J-20s, some man pads, maybe a couple of S-400s or 500s, a whole bunch of anti-tank equipment, some of the most advanced in the world. PMCs like these are not going to be carrying that kind of equipment. If anything, they're going to be carrying a load of small arms ammunition, maybe some light anti-tank armaments.
Yeah, like they're not going to be sending any kind of equipment or anything like that over on ships right now. They're not that stupid. If anything, they'll be flying them in by air. And if you've been watching the channel, we actually had just a couple of days ago where we was tracking planes that was going to Iran from China. So, I mean, I know China's sitting there saying that they're not going to sell arms to Iran. Well, maybe not now, since they've already sold all the arms that they needed to get there to them. So, I mean, I don't know. That's my perspective on it. But I mean, y'all let me know what y'all think in the chats.
And then some rifles. So it's not going to be anything large. And generally, that's about all you would need to be able to ward off any pirates. So, having an S-400 air defense system for Somali pirates would be a little overkill, and generally not at the bottom line interest of that PMC, which would be out to make money if those allegations are true that vessel was involved in those actions. So I'd have to say, folks, in my honest opinion, I think that they just went out of their way to seize it for some reason that we don't really know of, at least right now. And I would have to say that, in my opinion, I don't really think that they seized it to get some guns, because guns are pretty easy to come by. I mean, an automatic rifle, in reality, is very easy to get. You can buy one from the Russians right now and have it shipped through the Caspian Sea, so there's no reason to go get a Type 56 from China when you can literally buy from the source and get an AK-12 shipped to you in probably the next several weeks. But just
going down the hypothetical, though, if this vessel is indeed associated with China, which, also, by the way, a private military corporation in China, is there really even such thing as that? Because, of course, China's not a free market. Like, it's not open for everybody to start PMCs.
Now, just a heads up, there is no private weapons manufacturing in China. If there's any weapons manufacturer in China, China is involved with it. Just to let you know. I mean, there is no way that China leads a dictator communist country and not know where the weapons are going. Like, come on now. Like, they don't know where their technology is going. Get out of here. Like, that makes more sense. You know what? I can't even say that on air, but that is crazy. That's crazy. But we're gonna find out, though. We're gonna see about if they was, because I mean, if they start using new technology when we actually start the war back up. But I mean, I'm 80% sure that the war is probably going to end up starting back up right now. 80% sure. And that's crazy. No, but I mean, we should have already invaded, though. Like, we should have already went in. I mean, because all we're doing now is just giving them time to reorganize and actually do the logistics and actually get their military supplies to the front lines and orders. I don't know. I mean, I get cutting that off is going to cut their money flow off and everything else, but they don't care. They do not care. We're talking about the people that literally mauled down 40,000 people of their own people in the streets. I mean, that's insane.
That's usually not the way it works. So if this is indeed, and once again, that's a big if, because right now the details are a little bit murky, but let's just assume hypothetically this is a Chinese paramilitary situation here. Why would Iran go in and seize the vessel from China, or that's affiliated with China, knowing that China is their allies? They're trying to give more weapons to Iran. Why would they do something like that? That seems to be a little bit contrary. I'm seeing some people in the chat are sort of speculating here. They're saying maybe this is some type of really sneaky, covert way for China to simply give Iran more weapons in plain sight. It's too early to say that, because right now, like I said, the details are too murky to say that, and also there's still stuff about the vessel that's not currently known. It's just allegations right now. But I mean, it does seem a little bit weird. It's like, also, by the way, out of all the vessels that are currently waiting around the Strait of Hormuz, Iran makes a beeline for this one. It's like, what's up with that? And also, how did they know about it?
Also, to answer the question about does China have PMCs, they actually have a pretty decent number of them. According to the information that Wikipedia accumulated from 2016, these are the following major PMCs that are operated out of the People's Republic of China. G4S Control Risks, China Security and Protection Company Limited, Beijing Diwi Security Service Company Limited, the Huaqing Zhonggan Beijing Security Service Company Limited, and the Shanghai Zhongqinghui Security Service Group Company Limited as well. And those are all of the Chinese PMCs that were operational in 2016. So they do have them.
I mean, aren't they like state-owned enterprises though? Like I think it even says that right there. It says state-owned enterprises right there.
But there's also large private enterprises and small and medium enterprises as well. And regardless whether
I think some of those might be American affiliated in some way or another, possibly one of them. It seems also, by the way, I mean, every company in China has like some connection to the government. Like it doesn't work like that in China. You can't just go over there and have like a completely independent company. It's just not that way.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, though, taking that assumption and saying, well, then this is clearly some sort of a gig by the Chinese and the Iranians to do some secret transfer. How do we explain away that Chinese ship that was loaded up with Iranian oil that the IRGC went out and seized last week? Like, was that some sort of a great scheme by the Iranians and the Chinese to give Iran back their oil that they literally could have just turned around and unloaded at Karg Island if they wanted to? Like, that kind of stuff starts falling apart really quickly when we start to look at all of the other situations that have involved a Chinese ship and the IRGC so far that we know of and can confirm, because there isn't really.
I thought the Iranians said they were confused about that vessel. Later, they tried to backtrack because they realized it was a Chinese oil tanker that they had seized. I thought they tried to backtrack off of that.
I didn't see that myself. I mean, maybe you saw that, but I never saw it. All I heard was that it was seized, and that was that.
On this one, I would say, well, like I said, there's a lot of hypotheticals here, so we're having to sort of go off of a hypothetical because we don't know for a certainty what the vessel was doing or what it really was. But the allegations are saying it was some sort of floating arsenal. So I wouldn't conflate the oil tankers with this situation right here. They could be completely separate, and they could have different motivations for it. So I wouldn't conflate the two.
But what kind of weapons, though, would the Chinese be providing through those means that they couldn't just railroad through Russia and then have shipped via the Caspian, which would be a much easier and more direct way to ship weapons to Iran rather than Iran having to hold on to some tugboat at this point to be able to try and get the weapons off of it if these allegations are true. I mean, if the Chinese wanted to send weapons to Iran, there's a much easier way of going about that than having to send a little tugboat filled with weapons, into the Gulf of Oman to get seized. There's a whole bunch of easier ways to do that wouldn't even raise any kind of suspicions at all.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But maybe when more information comes out, we can figure out what the truth is behind it.
Maybe so, but outside of that, we've also been able to hear of another statement by the President of the United States where it was said that the military decimation of Iran is to be continued, which actually would bring us right into our Chinese news, which we'll be getting into here in a moment. We've also been able to hear that the U.S. blockade at the moment has currently stopped and turned around and fired upon about 76 ships at this point that have attempted to challenge the blockade. So, quite a significant number. And from what we do understand so far, the U.S. Armed Forces are still keeping a fairly significant blockade at this moment going at the Gulf of Oman, and we have not seen a vessel challenge it and succeed just yet. We've also been able to hear that oil loading has resumed at Karg Island, which is also quite interesting, as this image right here actually shows us a vessel that is at the oil loading pier, and this is the first one that we have confirmed since May 7th. So it's been roughly about an entire week at this point since we saw the last ship loading with oil at Karg Island, and we're now seeing another one loading. So this appears to be throwing a little bit of our analysis out of the window yesterday that maybe they had run out of some form of capacity. Maybe they just found one ship that could load.
Hey, just to let everybody know that call lines are open only on live stream. The call lines are not open after the stream is over or when stream is not going on. I see people messaging on the call line and asking why there ain't no answer or anything like that. Well, you have to call in while the stream is live. So if you can, I understand that people are busy and got their own things going on, got jobs, everything else. But if you can get in whenever we are going live, I really appreciate it, and call in then. If not, drop messages on the channel or platform that you're actually viewing from, and then I will get back to you accordingly. but I do answer all messages, and I do look at all everybody's messages that message me. So if you message me on Discord, on Facebook, or whatever, I do read everybody's messages. Everybody, I don't care what it is. It could be hello, and I'll read it. It don't matter. Um, I love talking to my community. I want to, get to know my community more. So the more I actually get to communicate with y'all, and actually more y'all communicate with me, the more I get to know y'all, the more we actually can get to carry on conversation and actually go on with the show and do the news. And y'all can actually ask questions whenever y'all like, and we will try to answer them if we can. If not, we will research and try to get you the best and precise answers that we can. We try to do straight facts here, no BS. And if we are wrong, we will be the first one to come on live air and say that we was wrong, and we will fix it. So, we're not trying to bring y'all any kind of BS or anything like that. We're trying to bring y'all straight facts, straight news, and straight what's going on in the world, that nobody else is really talking about and giving y'all information every day on. They be talking about the same stuff every day for hours and hours at a time, and I don't be doing that. I'll be talking about different things that's going on, because we do have several different conflicts and several different things going on all over the world. We just don't have one thing going on. We have several, and things at this point in time, and especially in the conflicts that's going on right now, especially Ukraine and Russia situation, because Russia did a massive strike on Ukraine, and Ukraine's done did a massive drone strike on Russia. So, I mean, things are getting hairy there. Nukes are talking about being used again. I mean, that's never a good sign when they start talking about that, because I mean, even if they use a tactical nuclear weapon on Ukraine, the response from Europe is, I don't, you know what I mean. At this point, it's either heads or tails, man, with Europe the way they are right now, because they're so left wing and like going off the wall, like it's crazy. Um, their their immigration is terrible. I mean, their migration level has quadrupled in size over the years, and literally, it's getting really bad there. Violent crimes, everything else, and that's what's going to end up happening to the United States if we kept on leaving our borders open like it was. And I understand, I understand that people's been here for a long time and everything else. But I mean, them people been here a long time and breaking the law though, and those states has been letting them get by with it. But I don't condone anybody coming here and actually going through due processing, and actually going through the process and actually getting uh their passport to come here, or even getting affiliated to America. You know what I mean? But it's as soon as you cross the border without anybody else knowing, you're not doing the proper paperwork, you broke the law anyways. It don't matter. I mean, even us here in America, if we actually break the law, it don't matter if we got kids or not. If we got kids, guess what's going to happen to the kids? They go to social services, and we go to jail. I don't see how it's any difference than anybody else. It don't make no difference to me. For real. I've been in the system. I know how it is. So, like, I've been there, done that. People's got to grow up someday and realize. And then you get what you have. What's going on now? Well, what was going on with the ICE and everything else? It's nonsense. Like, let them do their job and get these violent people out of here. I mean, or if not, how would you like somebody to walk up in the mall and have a nuclear bomb strapped to their chest and blow up millions of people? That's where it could have went to. I mean, Iran's. I mean, I know they say weeks and weeks away, but I mean, they have enough for it right now to make a dirty bomb and to level DC. It's crazy that people even say, "Oh no, they're not a threat," or or we don't have no threats here in the United States, but we do. We do. Why you think you see all these violent people out here causing Cain and everything else? I mean, these are paid people that's doing this. It's causing all this distress and everything else in the street. And these are paid people doing this. People are getting paid to do this. And that was actually proven that they're actually getting paid to do this. It's crazy. But anyways,
a little bit of extra oil onto it, or they didn't run out of capacity and there was some other reason that they stopped loading for an entire week at Karg Island, and now it may be resuming at a somewhat regular pace. However, it is only one ship, folks, so this might be the only one, or it might be followed by several others. We're not sure yet, but this is starting to lead to an idea that this was some sort of an anomalous situation that's happened over the course of the past week, to where we saw that all oil loading stopped, and now it looks like it may possibly be resuming once again. We've also been able to see significant U.S. Air Force activity over the area of the Middle East, with a significant amount of aerial tankers airborne today, and some resupply flights, RCHs and Mooses, flying in and continuing the resupplies throughout the entirety of the region. We have also been able to see as well that an RC-135W signals intelligence aircraft, or a rivet joint, was in the area today as well, most likely trying to gather more signals intelligence on the Islamic Republic of Iran to be.
And just to let everybody know that we did have the White Horse is what it's called. It's the Doomsday plane in the air yesterday. Just to let y'all know. That's only been flown. That's only been flown 5 times in 30 years, or 40 years, something like that. Maybe 50 years. 4 or 5 times. That's been tracked. Let me just say, I'm sure it's been flown more than that around without the transponder on, but it was shown flying over to, I'm not even going to say where that was at, because I'll be lying to you if I would, because I don't remember exactly where it was at, but I wanted to say the UK. But anyways, or down towards the Middle East. But anyways,
able to try and see where their military is at currently and what position they're largely taking. And we're starting to get a clear idea of Iran that position is not a good one for the United States, at least as far as dragging on the ceasefire for as long as possible, because the Iranians are already saying, including Mohammad Morandi, that Tehran's operating assumption is that the U.S. may once again shift towards restarting the war on Iran. Which I gotta say, folks, I mean, it's kind of crazy that everybody in the world is assuming that the war on Iran is going to restart, including Iran, and the only people who are not assuming that the war is going to be starting again anytime soon is largely the office of the president, which, as stated today, which I do have to say that the destruction will continue, but they have also said that many times over the past month and a week, and we have seen that each time they say that, destruction is still long down the distance in terms of time and is never coming around the corner. So it does appear that everybody is largely under the understanding at this point that there has to be some resumption of military action, because the Iranians are hardlining, we're hardlining, and we need the Strait to be reopened. So there has to be some sort of resumption of military action. Otherwise, it's going to be to the absolute detriment of the United States if that is not done. And it looks like the Iranians are trying to goad us into returning into a conflict with them, maybe even to their own detriment without them knowing, because we have to open the Strait. That means that military action must be made to reopen the Strait. We have also been able to see that some Iranian billboards have been put up around Tehran as well that are actually listing off Iran's exact demands to the public. You can even see right here on these cheap billboards that they have a hand holding up 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to not get people mixed up on what order these are in.
Also, by the way, tell me if I'm wrong, folks, but I'm pretty sure that billboards are for advertising products. I mean, why are they advertising the peace deal to the Iranian citizens? They're not involved in the talks.
Matthew, the Islamic regime is a marketable good. It's the Islamic regime's ideology is a marketable item, and they must get everybody on board.
Well, I mean, it's not people aren't getting a say, man. They just mowed down like 40,000 of them the other day. It's like they're not getting a say in this. It's like what the hell are these billboards even for? This is the goofiest thing.
Matthew, you do not understand. In the great, and I do have to say, in His Excellency's benevolence, the Islamic Republic of Iran is giving the people a choice. They're letting them understand what they're doing, and they can either get on board or the massacres continue. And that is quite a benevolent position by a government like Iran's. I mean, truly, folks, imagine that.
I tell you what, man. I'll tell you, this is a very flamboyant move by a very flamboyant regime. I just don't understand it, really. I just don't understand this. And this isn't the first time, by the way. Like, usually the IRGC will go put up these massive, like, huge banners on the side of buildings, and they'll like threaten Israel with these banners and stuff like that. I guess they're expecting people to photograph it and then upload it so that way the West can see it. But it's like, well, they could just put out an announcement instead. So I've never really understood the whole like messaging through billboards thing. It's kind of a weird concept.
But when you think about it, though, let me go get this. Let's see. So let me go see if I can find some images of these in North Korea. Well, I can't find images of... Oh, here we are. Well, North Korea has those Juche slogans that are up everywhere in Pyongyang and even the provincial cities and towns. And it's not for any real purpose, because it's not like, you have to tell the North Korean public, working hard is good, because if they don't work hard, they get sent to a labor camp, and then they work until they die. So there's a very significant motivation to work, so that way they don't get put in a camp and get killed. But yet they still have these slogans everywhere. Like, even defectors have stated that giant slogans like these can be found in the smallest of villages throughout the country. The North Korean government can't pay for them to live in nicer housing or to have any electricity or to even feed them, but by golly, they are going to put up a giant concrete sign on the side of the road telling you to work hard for the Juche revolution, because that they do have money for. And so I guess it's kind of similar like that in Iran, because they're a dictatorship and an authoritarian regime, that they feel like putting up that sort of propaganda is beneficial to their state for some means or some purpose, which I don't really understand myself either. But outside of that, we actually have breaking news coming out at this moment right now. So Matthew, what do we got?
Okay, so we do have some breaking news. So we haven't actually had a breaking news segment on the live stream in probably about a week, but we have one tonight. We have just gotten word from Iran. They are declaring that they have now just deployed the Ghadir-class mini-submarines. And also, if you could pull up a picture of that, because I'm not really familiar with their submarines that they have, but they've just deployed them into the Strait of Hormuz. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. So that's their submarine. But Iran is declaring these the invisible guardian of the strait to enforce control over the vital waterway. And they're now threatening to possibly attack ships using these submarines that are now, they're claiming, are all over the strait. They've just apparently set them out into position. So, my goodness, by the way, I didn't know that was their submarine. Is that the only one they've got, or did it have other ones?
They have some of these. I think they have like 10 or so, but it's not a lot of them.
Okay, so, can these things actually carry anything? They look like they're slightly larger than a narco sub.
Well, that's a good question. Let's go to the Wikipedia article and figure out what they got. So, the armament is 2 533 millimeter torpedoes.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. And also, by the way, that's assuming they're all armed with these. And also, they're saying they deployed several, but we don't know what several means. Several could technically be 2. They've actually got, they got about 8 right here in the picture, at least. That's if they haven't all been destroyed.
According to Wikipedia, they have 20 of these, but I don't know how accurate that count is at the moment right now.
Okay, so I'm not really sure if we should be concerned by this. I guess technically if there's 20 of them and they all carry torpedoes, that's obviously a cause for concern, but, these don't look stealth. That's just my assumption. They don't look stealth, and they look kind of ugly, too, like they might have been made out of somebody's backyard with a parts bin. Is that the size of it?
That's the size of the beast.
How many of those bastards can they fit in there?
Oh... How many? What do you mean, bastards? Crew members, torpedoes?
Oh, crew members.
Crew members. Yes, the complement of this vessel is 7.
Oh, 7 people. Should we be concerned about this or not? Because I'm kind of like, I'm on the fence about laughing about it, but at the same time, 20 of them could be a risk. What's your take?
They kind of are a little... but not really. They're a threat because they're in a place like Hormuz. If they weren't in a place like Hormuz, they wouldn't be a threat at all. They'd easily be found and destroyed, because really no Navy fields these anymore, because midget subs are considered absolutely stupid. You fit a clown car sized amount of guys in a clown car size sub, and then you send it out into the strait, and it's not really going to do a lot in reality. But they could be detected by anti-submarine measures, like putting in a sonar dip in the water from a helicopter, or even using the active sonar off of an Arleigh Burke. And you could probably easily find one of these things and knock it out So I don't really think this thing is that big of an issue. To be honest, the fast attack boats swarming on the surface are more of a threat than these things, I would say.
Yeah, I guess maybe these right here. I mean, let's look at this. I mean, they've had this submarine capability the entire time. So if they wanted to hit a U.S. Navy warship, they could have already done it, I would assume. So this must be purely for the intimidation factor. They're putting this out there. They're trying to once again put more fear into the minds of the ship captains that are trying to take their cargo ships through the strait. Because if they wanted to hit the U.S. Navy, they could have already tried it, but they haven't so far. So, it's really unclear at this point. This one is kind of like a sideways announcement. Like I wasn't expecting to hear this tonight. I wonder why they waited until now to do this.
That's a good. I don't know. Actually, this is a little bit interesting. I generally assumed that most of these were not operational because they'd been knocked out earlier. But at least according to the Iranians, they may have some of them that are operational, and they may be out in the strait. It wouldn't pose a threat to the U.S. Navy, but it would pose a threat to commercial shipping that's trying to pass through the area because they could try and torpedo them. So that's the threat. But I mean, on top of that, folks, I mean, if you look at this thing, it's not really like it's a real submarine. I mean, that giant tube thing on the back of the conning tower, I assume is the periscope. So the periscope is the periscope, which can only be sized down so small, is so large even compared to this thing that it's a significant portion of the conning tower or the sail of the submarine. Then on top of that, we have to remember this thing carries only 2 torpedoes. And let me see what type of torpedoes this thing can carry. So let's see here. Let's see here. So all the Iranian folks down here are saying, "Oh my God, these things are so scary and destructive." Now I'm doubting that because if they were, wouldn't every navy on the planet have some of these? And they don't. The Iranians, I think, are one of the only ones that do. But let's see here. They don't really put out a lot of info on what type of torpedoes this thing can carry. Wait a minute, hang on.
It's an ancient Iranian secret.
The Volfager. These right here.
Oh yeah, those, the Volfager. You got to watch out for those. Who gave these to them? Like, they surely didn't make them on their own.
They make them, but they only have a range of 15 kilometers, which is roughly 7 miles. So if you're 7 miles away from this thing, there's really no way that it can hit you with a torpedo. Or it can carry the Hoot. This is the Hoot.
That looks like it's a Hoot.
This thing has a range of 6 miles at a maximum speed of 220 miles per hour. This is a supercavitation torpedo. So this is one of the ones that people have talked about in the past that we had to start learning on. And it can also carry some anti-ship missiles as well. But once again, only 2. And so in any number of munitions that this thing could fire, really anyone could deal with the threat that these things pose easily. Even if all of them were out there in the strait at one moment in time, these things wouldn't really pose that much of a threat. It's really more of the fast attack boats that are posing the threat at the moment right now.
Yeah. Also, by the way, just out of curiosity, this is kind of a side note at this point, but how are these things actually like fully submersible, or are they semi-submersible, and how deep can they go allegedly?
Oh, let's see. Let's see if we can find any of that information here on this page, because I'm sorry, folks, I don't know a lot about this one.
Because the reason why I'm asking that is because it looks like a narco sub, it smells like a narco sub, but is it a narco sub? Because technically, narco subs are not true submarines. They're usually not fully submersible. They're usually semi-submersible. They paint them a color that blends in with the water, so that way you really can't see the top of it because it can't really go fully under the water. So it's hard to tell if these right here are actually real submarines or not, or they're just calling it that.
Well, they're real submarines because the narco subs are the low visibility vessels, like such things like that. This one actually can submerge. It's just that it doesn't appear that there's any sort of publicly published sort of a dive test limit that's been put out for this thing. So I'm assuming that it probably can't go deep, maybe like 300 feet or so, which isn't really a whole lot, but that would literally be to the bottom of the Strait of Hormuz. But there's no thermal layer there, so it doesn't really matter how deep this thing can go, because whether it's at 300 feet, 200 feet, or 50 feet, it's going to be detected on active sonar because there's no thermal layer for this thing to go under because the strait is so shallow.
I hope they got good sonar in these things because they got a whole minefield out there now. So I wonder if we'll be hearing about a big kaboom in the strait, and then one of these submarines just starts bubbling to the surface.
I mean, you never know. You might hear at some point that some ship that's near to the strait goes and reports to the UK MTO, there's some weird bubbling in an oil slick that just popped up on the top of the water near to our ship. It's one of these things that just imploded down there while it was like skittering around. That would honestly be hilarious. But it does appear that at this point, the Iranians are stating that they do have a couple of little Goddard-class submarines out there right now in the strait. But outside of that, they put up these billboards and stated that these are their following demands. 1, the removal of all sanctions. 2, payment of reparations. 3, the acceptance of Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. 4, release of frozen funds, and 5, a ceasefire on all fronts, including Lebanon, which they actually included the flag of Hezbollah and also Lebanon on the 5th billboard to make sure to get that point across that it's everything, including Lebanon. So it does appear that the Iranians are still working off of maximalist demands, and they're putting their billboards up in Tehran to continue to show that that is the case. But alas, folks, it is time for us now finally to move on out of the Middle East and on into China, because we have a lot of news that came out of China over the day, and we're going to be covering this news in sequence from the first statements that came out today that we were able to report on up into the most recent ones, starting with the oldest reports first and then moving up to the most recent to show you all the progression through the day. Moving us on into our first reports, we were able to hear that China and the United States were at least able to agree that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So there you have that. Considering that China is a signing member of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, they would be obligated by treaty to make this statement. So it doesn't really mean much of anything more than that, because Russia has also said that as well. Yeah, we see Russia taking no active actions to stop their support of Iran, to stop them from nuclearizing. As a matter of fact, Russia is actually largely helping Iran to nuclearize. So Russia has made a similar statement like this, and we haven't really seen anything come out of it. We've also been able to see that there's also been some other interesting developments, but a lot of people are talking at the moment, and getting to this before we get into the rest of our news in Beijing, about whether the war in Iran is going to be restarting soon. And Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
Okay, so before we jump into our China news, we got to cover this first because I got to get my China polls ready. But the poll right here says on this one, the U.S. president said today, he said it in a post that was generally talking about China, but he did say that military decimation of Iran will continue very soon. It will be continued. So what happens next? Because, of course, we have heard that before, but this is the newest statement we've gotten so far, saying that the war is about to restart directly from the president himself. 49% said it will restart after the Beijing meeting. 35% said the USA is trying to scare Iran to talk, and 10% said it could start at any moment. It could start tonight. And I would say I am definitely solidly with the 49%. This Beijing meeting must end first. The president needs to come back to the United States, and once all the pieces of the puzzle are solidly in place, the U.S. will likely restart the attacks on Iran then, because pretty much everybody's on the same page. Iran knows it's restarting. They're saying that. The U.S. president's now saying it's going to restart. China's also warning that it's going to restart. Russia's warning it as well. I mean, everybody's on the same page. So there's pretty much no scenario where this does not restart. It's pretty much guaranteed to, and we're hearing the president echo that statement once again. So, of course, the Iranians are sending out their submarines. They have apparently submariners that are willing to throw it back for the regime or throw it down for the regime. Well, possibly one or the other. They have a flamboyant leader these days. You never can tell. But I'm with the 49%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'll be with 49% as well. I would say that this is definitely going to be restarting after the Beijing meeting is over and all of the U.S. officials fly back to the United States, along with all of the billionaires as well, oligarchs. Once they all return back to the United States and they're safe and sound, Tim Apple will give the order, but the president will give the order for the strikes to resume. I would have to say that that's fairly obvious at this point. There's no way that the diplomacy is going to get anywhere with the Iranians. They're still working off of maximalist demands. We're where we're at right now diplomatically with them that we were all the way back a month and a week and a half ago at this point. So there is absolutely no way that continuing on with failed diplomatic attempts is going to achieve anything. War has to be resumed. So I would have to say, folks, that without a shadow of a doubt, the war is going to be started starting after the Beijing talks are concluded. They're not going to start it, though, while they're over there, because that could lead to some significant issues. Like, for example, to keep the president, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, and most other top officials, including the president and his cabinet, apprised of the developments, they would have to radio in that information into China, meaning that China would be able to intercept anything that they're getting while they're in China, which means that would be a significant security breach, which is why they would wait to do that once they return and not do that while they're over there, because the Chinese will intercept every radio broadcast that is going to be made, which would be bad for us security-wise. But moving us on out of that whole situation and that poll, it is time for us to get on and into the rest of the news that we have from the People's Republic of China, as we have been able to hear of that significant news today that China and the United States did agree on that Iran does not have to have a nuclear weapon. But you know something, folks? There's a big problem with this. This sounds like a victory, but it's not. And I was trying to explain this a moment ago before we got into this poll. But the problem with this statement is that China can agree that Iran doesn't need to have a nuclear weapon, but if they do nothing to stop that, that's well within their parameter. They could just say, we don't believe in the spirit of them having a nuclear weapon, and outside of that, do nothing. Or they could say this and then actively support Iran nuclearizing and keep that under wraps. So there's not really anything, at least here at the moment, that would give us an idea that this is going to be a significant sort of a development in foreign policy, and that China's going to be actively helping us to stomp the Iranians. Because I have to remind you all that Vladimir Putin has said this specific thing 3 times over the course of the last year, and not once has done anything to try and stop Iran from nuclearizing. The Russians...
Oh, yeah. And you remember, by the way, China themselves, they had said they were never going to militarize the South China Island or the South China Sea. They were never going to militarize that. They said that, what was that, like 5 or 6 years ago, something like that? And what's happening now? They're militarizing it. So, I mean, you can't take China's word for squat. Like, they can say something 1 minute, and so can Russia. And, I mean, obviously, we can't take their word for it. I think most people know that.
I think most everybody knows that, but I have to make sure to do my due diligence, folks, because the communist Chinese, how do I say it? They just can't be trusted. They're not really a trust. Because I was looking at that there for a second. Communist Chinese, you know? That's generally just what we know by historical example at this point, and how they've been.
Now we went over what the Chinese has been going on, and we've been going over what has been going on in Iran. Excuse me, I take a drink. Now, for one, at the end of the day, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, and it seems like they just keep on precising to keep on trying to build one. We have 100% voting on blockade of the trades, on all trades. That's going to China and that's going to Iran. Like it's insane about what's going on, but I mean, we're going to see where it ends up and see where it comes. Stay tuned. If we're not on tomorrow evening at 4:30, we'll be on tomorrow night at 10:30. So stay tuned to tomorrow, and I hope you all have a wonderful and God bless.